Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is Carmine Sabia for Explain America, and a CNN legal analyst just shocked the world because he said, yes, there is a loophole that could see President Donald Trump get a third term as President of the United States. Before we get started, please make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. Those little things really help us out, and they help our channel continue to grow. It's been the talk of Washington. It was the talk of the No Kings rally. Will President Trump serve a third term? Now, yesterday, President Trump himself addressed this. He told reporters he would love to serve a third term, but he said he was not constitutionally allowed to do it. Now, this, to most reasonable people, would seem like a concession to him that he knows the limits of the Constitution, and Steve Bannon is out there and he's talking about this Trump third term. I personally think Steve is trolling. But you never know with Steve. Steve is a genius. If anybody could find a way, it's him. Well, CNN legal analyst Ellie Honig said there is a way. There actually is a way. There's a path. And so the path is this. The amendment, the 22nd Amendment, says no person can run for president more than 2 times. What it doesn't say is no person can serve as president for more than 2 terms. Now, the prevailing wisdom here, and what people are saying is, J.D. Vance, Vice President J.D. Vance, could run for president in 2028 with President Donald Trump as his vice presidential running mate. Conceivably, win the election, and then step aside and install President Donald Trump back to the presidency. This is a long shot. This is a long shot, but see, there's the other amendment that says nobody that's not eligible to be president can run for vice president. That really only applies to age and citizenship. Doesn't apply to the 2-term rule because it was written before the 2-term amendment. So it's something that would drag into the Supreme Court. Here's my personal opinion. I think it'd be bad for the Republican Party. It would be a huge distraction to have to drag that out in the courts. And if we were successful, we'd probably run against former President Barack Obama. And that would just be wild. And it's not worth that gamble. It's not worth that gamble, not to me. I want you guys to listen to what Ellie Honig had to say here. Give this a watch and let me know what you think in the comments.
Bannon when he says these things, and I wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah, Steve Bannon was the one pushing this the most. He's saying that there is going to be a third Trump term. I think that one person that maybe we should listen to, in addition to Senator Tommy Tuberville on this, is Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett, who was actually asked about the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution and said this in a recent interview.
The 22nd Amendment says you can only run for office for 2 terms.
True.
You think that that's cut and dry?
Well, that's what the amendment says, right? After FDR had 4 terms, that's what that amendment says.
Ellie?
Okay, I agree with Justice Barrett. Now, the Constitution...
You agree with her that that's what the amendment
right,
says?
It does, yeah.
Thank
Brett Baer read it correctly. But now, look, the 22nd Amendment is about 99.8% clear. But let me just explain the 0.2% where it's maybe not clear. I'm not endorsing this. I think it will fail, but let me explain where that 0.2% is coming from. The 22nd Amendment says no person shall be elected to president more than twice. But there's arguably a difference between elected and be the president or serve as president. So that gives rise to this theory. Maybe he'll run as the vice president and then the president will resign. However, you then have to look at the 12th Amendment, which says if you're ineligible to be president, you're ineligible to be vice president. But the response to that, and this is where I think it really gets ridiculous, is ineligible just means the 35 years old, natural-born U.S. citizen, and 14 years of residence in the United States. So it's one of these situations you just wish the framers, the people who wrote, this is a later amendment, but the people who wrote the Constitution were just a little clearer. They obviously meant you can't be the president twice, but they didn't quite say it. I think it loses in court. I don't want to encourage this, but that's the legal hook that people are hanging on to.
I'm not sure the framers had Steve Bannon in mind pushing a third term when they were cracking all of this out.
To me, this is the uniqueness of Donald Trump. He finds that 0.02% and he tries to